As many governments stall and seemingly retreat from earlier commitments or revise agreed limits and energy policies, our progress appears at best mixed and is certainly not simply linear. This fragile progress is further exacerbated by wars and armed conflicts, and even by new high-energy using technological developments. Many of us have been personal witnesses to weather extremes, including record temperatures causing disruptions and fires, hurricanes, floods, and droughts. The promises of a transition rooted in justice to a new era are increasingly challenged. In our part of the world, the Asia-Pacific, vulnerable island nations and communities are already impacted and transitions underway under urgency, and as yet without the necessary support. This is increasingly the case for all humanity that lives in low-lying areas. We Jews pray every week that our political leaders will be guided by wisdom and justice. We're praying that our leaders at COP30 and beyond are guided by wisdom focused on justice. As the Bible proclaims, we are not to just seek justice, we must actively pursue it. We Jews are encouraged not to be passive and quietist, but proactive and dynamic as we act in response to the climate crisis, particularly on the impact on the poorest and most vulnerable people. Holding on to justice for our collective future is the best way to rise above our very short electoral cycles and their short-term political bottom lines and goals. There's now a global coalition of Jewish climate organizations representing the UK's Eco-Judaism, the USA's Jewish Earth Alliance, Israel's Teva Ivri, and Australia's Jewish Climate Network, who are committed to, quote, work with our diverse communities to integrate sustainability practices, educate on climate and nature literacy rooted in Jewish values, and foster ambitious individual and communal action. They've pledged to represent the moral voice of the Jewish people on the global stage, standing in solidarity with other faiths and indigenous voices, scientists, civil society organizations, and affected communities to demand justice and responsible stewardship. Ribono shel olam, Master of the Universe, Asher beyadcha nefesh kol chai, in whose hand is the breath of all life, v'ruach kol basarish, and the soul of every person. Chazaknu lechem amacha, strengthen us to become your shoftim de nanim, your faithful partners, lishmor al olamcha, to preserve the world, be'avur hador habayim, for the sake of future generations. Hashem Elokeinu, Elokei Avotenu, the God of our fathers, our God, Shevatech al Amecha, to renew your blessing for the world. Biyomenu Kimei Kadem, in our day, as you've done from the beginning. Amen.
I really believe in the aims of what this group is doing. And, you know, a lot of people say, oh, you know, what can prayer and meditation do to help the environment? But I know that the power of vibrating sound and the effect that it has on the human body to calm, to me, it's not a leap of faith or imagination that feelings and thoughts can have an effect on the atmosphere around us, on our bodies, and on matter as well. So about, I think about 18 months ago, I was asked to write a song for an interfaith program. Gabrielle, who is here, asked me to, and Terry, who is here, I think, had something to do with that event as well. And I was told that there were participants from, I think, 8 faiths who were participating on the day. And I wondered what sort of a song would make everybody feel that it was equally about them. And that's not the easiest thing to do. And I thought, well, what are we all underneath the skin and underneath the labels and underneath all the different backgrounds? Well, we're in male and female bodies, so we're brothers and sisters. And then underneath that, we're all human souls. And so once I realized, got a feeling for who was going to be there, it all happened in about 15 minutes, the song. So I feel in a way that I can't really take the full credit for it. I feel that sometimes a musician is an instrument and you just have to get out of the way and let what needs to be done be created. And so when I hear it, I sort of sometimes catch myself thinking, oh, that's a nice song. I don't really feel I have full authorship of it, but it was a wonderful experience when I did perform it, and the feeling there amongst the diverse group that was present, I really, I just felt this enormous, I don't know how to say it, but this enormous feeling of love for everyone. And I think, to me, that's the spirit of interfaith. And it's the feeling that we are all in this together in the way that we are spreading this vibration of love and unity for the environment as well. So one other little tale I'd like to tell where I feel I come into the COP part of it is that just over a year ago, I was mentoring someone who was doing some speeches in English at the COP in Colombia, a French-speaking BK from Montreal. And she started sending me commentaries about what they were going to play at COP. And I was hearing all of these beautiful things about sending power, good wishes, love, compassion to Mother Nature and to the animal kingdom. And I'd never really had put much energy into that side of my meditation before. And it really touched me. I loved it. I thought, yes, we've got to look after the animals and we've got to give back to Mother Earth, and we've got to look after her like she's a person. And we have to all do it together. If we don't all do it together, it can't happen. It's such a massive task, but we've got to put things right. And so I was very happy that this event seems to combine both of those two things, interfaith and a want to serve the environment. So that's how this song Shine came about. And that's my contribution for today's prayers and meditations. I feel it is a meditation in itself. And then, of course, we'll have the silence after. So thank you once again.
Let me offer my hand to you. Let me give to you a smile. Let me speak a kind word and sit with you a while. Though the world says we are different, underneath this isn't true. For I see you as my brother, and I'm your brother too. Shine Let me hear each word you say. Let me see the world through your eyes and praise the good in each day. Though the world says we are different, underneath this isn't true. For I see you as my sister. This is my blessing just for you. Shine in the light of love, in the light of peace. May you shine, shine together for a while, for a world that's in our hands. May you shine, shine a light into the darkness. May you shine, shine, shine in the light of love, in the light of peace. May you shine, shine together for a while, for a world that's in our hands. May you shine.
Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much, first of all, for allowing me to be a part of this wonderful gathering and interfaith prayer for COP 30, because this is a subject very close to my heart. And without further ado, I would like to begin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, and peace to all joining from every corner of our shared earth. Today, we have come together as one human family. Muslims, Christians, Jews, Hindus, Buddhists, Sikhs, indigenous spiritual traditions, and people of conscience. Everywhere, united by a truth deeper than any difference. We are caretakers of the earth, not its owners. The Quran reminds us, it is He who has made you custodians on the earth, in verse 166, Surah number 6. This sacred trust mirrors teachings across all faiths, that creation is a gift to protect, not a resource to exploit. At COP 30, as the world turns its attention to forests, oceans, biodiversity, indigenous guardianship, and the hopes of children and youth, we gather today in the spirit of shared responsibility. And therefore, today I want to offer a multi-faith and indigenous inspired prayer for everyone. O Allah, most compassionate, guide us to walk gently upon the land and to honor all who protect it. O Creator of all beings, bless the indigenous people and everyone whose ancestral knowledge has safeguarded forests and waters for generations. May their rights, wisdom, and leadership be upheld as a moral compass for global climate action. O light of the heavens and the earth, Inspire our youth, those who refuse to give up on the future with strength, clarity, and courage. They are not only leaders of tomorrow, they are the conscience of today. O source of peace, join our hands across religions, cultures, and nations, that we may protect what none of us can protect alone. Let these moments of silence become a space where our spirits meet beyond boundaries, a space where the earth itself can be heard. I would now like to ask everyone to offer a silent meditation prayer in their own way, as they would like to do from their own religious perspective, for at least 2 to 3 minutes.
Thanks a lot. So the topic I chose for today, because I think that's what aligned with the UNO's thing, was the food scarcity. I think that's what I really wanted to. It's something that's been very close to my heart too, from the Sikh philosophical point of view. So I just wanted to present a very high-level overview of how we think about food scarcity in the world. So obviously, the food scarcity remains one of the most urgent and yet persistently neglected challenges of our time. The food and water obviously are the most basic requirements of the human survival, and these are the foundation upon which every society, economy, and culture is built. But yet, in a world where we invest billions into the technological advancements, many of which generally don't even end up in a meaningful thing for the human life, we continue to underinvest in the fundamentals that sustain the humanity itself. I'm very sure you would have heard all these data about the food scarcity, which is quite confronting, that 8.2% of the world's population is still experiencing the chronic hunger. In Africa itself, we've got the undernourishment, which is exceeding 20%, which is genuinely impacting 300 million plus people. And in Western Asia, we've got almost 12.7% of the population, or 39 million individuals, who face hunger on the daily basis. So these are all the challenges that we face from the food scarcity point of view. And from the Sikh perspective, we do acknowledge the physical part of it, that yes, there are some challenges and we need to acknowledge it, and we do need to work on it. But from the Sikh perspective, we also have a very philosophical view to it, which is very deeply human perspective on the food scarcity. If I present on the philosophical side of it, to start with, the founder of Sikhi, the Guru Nanak Dev Ji, he actually says the divine was always nourishing us. And before we even came onto this planet, the divine created the wind and water, and then it created the actual universe, which means that it was always caring about the things that are very essential for the sustenance of the humanity. It actually, the divine established the essentials of air and water long before creating the life itself, a sign that the divine's foresight, care, and nurturing. Life was set in place with a perfectly balanced ecosystem designed to sustain all beings without discrimination or preference. Even to the point that the fifth Nanak then says us that even the insects or the living beings who actually exist within the rocks, the divine is even taking care of them. Even for them, the food actually has been provided to them in the rocks. At a macro level and the micro level, Sikh teachings emphasize that every element required for survival was created with intention, abundance, and compassion. Even before I was born, my basic nourishment was prepared, the mother's milk, because the system of care was already in place. So that's what, again, the fifth Nanak says, that before we came, mother had the milk. It means that this is how caring the divine was. So obviously, all these things then lead to the question that if the whole system was designed with the perfection, and there was abundance of the food, and there was balance into this creation, then where did the food scarcity come from? Obviously, the world has got enough to feed all forms of life for millions of years, but why then do the vast sections of humanity struggle to bring food to the table? The Sikh wisdom answers this plainly. The root of the problem is not lack of natural resources, it is a human behavior. The real scarcity is not of the food, it is of the contentment. It is a greed and ego that distort the distribution. When individuals begin to see themselves as the owners rather than the custodians, then as humans we start to accumulate more than what we need. Accumulation beyond necessity creates artificial scarcity. Resources pile up in the hands of few while millions starve. This imbalance is not caused by the planet's limitations, but by the human choices. So that's why the third Nanak actually very categorically highlights the need for the spiritual food. That spiritual food is the one that starts to create the balance both in the metaphysical and the physical form from the food perspective. This actually helps us to understand that what is our true sustenance. Through it, we will find the real contentment. When spiritual nourishment is missing, material accumulation increases. The absence of the inner contentment manifests as the external scarcity. A mind that is deprived of spiritual grounding seeks satisfaction through ownership, consumption, and control. And this mindset, when scaled across communities, systems, and nations, becomes a structural cause for the global hunger. But when we come to the practicality of the Sikh faith, Sikhi offers one of the world's most powerful models of addressing food inequality. I don't know if you guys have heard about our concept of langar. Langar is a free kitchen that we actually have, and Sikhs across the globe actually believe in this concept and they go and distribute the food to the needy people. So langar is just not a free kitchen, it is a living institution of equality, dignity, and shared responsibility. In langar, we the food is prepared collectively, we serve it collectively, and we eat collectively with no discrimination on the basis of religion, caste, gender, class, or background. Langar actually helps to train the individuals to detach from ownership, to share willingly, and to view food as a universal right, not a commodity tied to privilege or status. It is a practical, scalable demonstration of how spiritual values can create social solutions. To summarize, Sikh philosophy recognizes real, practical challenges of food scarcity, but also links them to deeper metaphysical causes. It suggests that scarcity is not a failure of the planet or the divine, but a failure of human consciousness, of losing sight to our duty to share and sustain one another. Spiritual scarcity leads to material scarcity, spiritual contentment leads to material sharing. Therefore, the solution must be twofold. We need to renew spiritual resources, which is about contentment and being sort of satisfied with what we have, and also the political and social systems that encourage equality, compassion, and selfless sharing. If global systems or the political parties or the nations and the leaders start to adopt even the fraction of the langar philosophy, we would ensure that every human being has food on their plate at the end of the day. The world has enough for everyone. The question is, do we have the will to distribute with the justice and compassion? Thank you.
Thank you. St. John, old and wise, and having had time to long ponder what he had seen, wrote, we think probably around 90 AD, which is a couple of weeks back. He wrote, God is love, and those who live in love live in God, and God lives in them. Simplicity of wisdom refined through long reflection. God is love, and those who live in love live in God, and God lives in them. So in that spirit we gather, grateful for the gift of a new day in our meditation, our breathing in and our breathing out. The great poet W.H. Auden wrote near the end of his life, "Let my last thinks all be thanks." that my last thinks, having thought about a lot of things, may my last thinks all be thanks. So we gather grateful for the gift of life and the awareness of the seasons, and for the opportunity to love one another in this gift. The risen Jesus' first gift to his disciples who were anxious was peace. My peace I give you. So in the divine love and gifted with peace, we meditate and we try to act accordingly. I've been listening to the folk in Belém, and they're trying to get the best outcomes in these final days of the COP. There's, on the anniversary, the 10th anniversary, there's great gratitude for the Paris Agreement, its relevance, the roadmap it gives us. And as I listened to the coming towards the end of the COP, people really wanting to keep alive the promise, the goal of containing warming to that 1.5 degrees Celsius. And the evidence is that without the Paris Agreement, we'd be on a trajectory to warm by 3.6 degrees by the end of this century, which of course would be absolutely catastrophic. It is perplexing. It's hard to see why what seems obvious, cutting carbon emissions, somehow or other seems to be so problematic. The science has been clear for decades, but the science is also clear on smoking and lung cancer, but people still smoke, and there are vested interests which obfuscate unlovingly. In the divine love, we learn that true love never coerces. It's the nature of true love, never to coerce. So we're left free to choose whether to choose life or death. And our group, gathering in this divine life in meditation, we're seeking to choose to heal and never to harm. And so at Belém, in the final negotiations, they're trying to find those life-giving and healing choices to protect the forests, the Amazon, the oceans, those most vulnerable, helping them get the finance they need to adapt, mitigate, deal with loss and damage. The essential principle being lovingly conveyed is that we all have the responsibility to guard and protect creation, but we don't all have the same capacity to do that, either as individuals or as a nation. This morning, which was late at night Belém time, I listened as people came together after their day. They're awaiting the final texts of the negotiations, and then there'll be quick, hurried analysis of them and an endeavour to do some last-minute advocacy. They described the obvious busyness of it. They said there's many rumours, there's people buzzing in and out of meetings, shuttle diplomacy, texts that have still got a lot of brackets around them, which in the UN system means these are things still to be negotiated and finalised. So that's where they all are, and they're very grateful that we're offering our prayers and meditations as we come towards the end of the COP and hopefully make it successful. We were taking our grandson, who's 9, to school while I was listening to this wrap-up from the group in Belém, and were all sorts of different accents coming across, and it was just lovely to see the effect it had on him, to hear all these people speaking out of their faith and speaking about how they could still take effective action in these last couple of days of the COP. And to see him, having listened in the back of the car, get out of the car and bounce off buoyantly into his classroom, just was a lovely reminder that in our doing of this work, in our faithfulness to offering of prayers and meditations, we're creating a possibility for a good future for all whom we cherish and all who we know are somewhat vulnerable to what happens in these years. But as people who meditate and pray, amidst all of the noisy divisiveness, we know there's a profound unity and interdependence that's really what we might call an ontological reality. It's the condition of our being, that we're so bonded and linked to one another. And we go deeper into that and we touch the truth of it beautifully in our silence, our shared silence, in the offering that we make in the spiritual practice, which has become part of who we are. I am wearing a cross from the beautifully restored Notre Dame, and in a way, its own way, it's for me like the symbol of how we offer our prayers and meditations for a beautifully restored creation. So, having talked a lot about silence and stillness, I will now cease to speak and will enter the silence and the stillness.
Thank you, Maureen. I'm deeply honoured to take this space, which Bishop Philip Huggins was going to take, but in a reshuffling, I've ended up here today. And I also find that, to be honest, quite daunting because of the news we've all recently heard about the climate change conference, that COP31 will not be coming to Adelaide, but will instead be hosted in Turkey with our climate minister, Christopher Bowen, in the role of president. And rather than it being a shared Australian Pacific event, which would have been a real opportunity to highlight that existential threat of climate change to Pacific communities, but instead there's an offer of a small event to be held in the Pacific. And then our Australian climate minister hosting in Turkey. And I'm rather saddened by that because I feel it would have been better not to do a halfway thing, because we've now lost the chance for the Pacific to host a COP for some years yet to come. So I'm here today holding peace as we hold prayers for the outcomes of all of the conferences of the parties, the COPs that take place under the UN climate framework negotiations, in the hope that collectively we as humans and as people of faith can hold the line for a better outcome for our communities, for our ecosystems, and for our fragile planet. One thing, I'm packing up my office here today, and I came across something I thought I would share with you because I am a Mahayana Buddhist. I've begun to feel that perhaps I'm a Mahayana Angli Buddhist, because in my bag these days, having worked as a disaster and recovery chaplain, I not only have the beads I use for meditation and prayer, but I also have a holding cross, which is often used, either a holding cross, or I also have wooden holding hearts because they're non-denominational. Just if people who have come through bushfire or flood want something to hold, to have, to calm themselves and reflect on what has happened to their home, which in the case of bushfire is instant and immediate. You know right away, whether you were or you weren't in the path of the fire. Whereas after floods, there's a long wait for the water to recede before you see what has happened to your precious memories and photos and books. So we are an interfaith group here, holding prayer, holding meditation, holding hope in our heart for a turning of the world, a turning towards life, a turning away from the greed for the money associated with fossil fuels and all that goes with it, to instead lend a helping hand to others to make that transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy. And in this case, what I found today was a message from 2016, which was when the COP was held in Marrakesh, and I was working with Green Faith, and I asked His Holiness the Dalai Lama if he would sign a message of global faith leaders on climate change. And I was deeply touched, and I just refound it this morning. I had no thought to share it with you. But I got a message back from His Holiness, which I'll read aloud to you. I'm really happy to see that leaders, governments, and civil society are now taking climate change and global warming seriously, and it is a hopeful sign. Taking care of this planet, that is our only home, is the responsibility of the whole of humanity. And therefore, each of us, as individuals, has a responsibility to ensure that the world will be safe for future generations, for our grandchildren and great-grandchildren. I am hopeful that with a genuine sense of the oneness of humanity, all of us will do whatever we can to protect the environment. His Holiness the Dalai Lama, April the 14th, 2016. And one practice I thought I would share with you from Buddhism, from Tibetan Buddhism, is one of Tonglen. And in Tonglen, in meditation, as we're in silence and we're resting on the breath, the practice that we do is exchanging self for others. So while we're present, we're here in our own body, we're breathing in and out for our own life, but with the power of our mind, we're also sending out love and compassion to others and breathing in the pain and sorrow and transforming it from others to be breathing out again love and compassion for others, and breathing in, acknowledging the sorrows of the world, but in breathing out again, transforming it to love and compassion for ourselves and for our world. So, Tashi Dele, thank you for letting me speak.